Hello, my name is Justin Jeffrey. I'm a solutions architect with IP Fabric. Today I'm going to talk to you about how you can import IP Fabric data into Excel using Power Query. Later, in another episode, we will use the same topics for pulling this data into Power BI, which gives you a little more advanced functionality. The first thing we're going to do is go into IP Fabric. Right now I'm running version 6.1, which was released as of yesterday, March 2nd. So we have some new GUI design if you have not upgraded yet. First, we'll create an API token. This token only needs to be read-only, and it does require two endpoints that are not table related. So I'm also going to give it a snapshots read setting. That way it can read the snapshots and their information. So what you're going to do is put a description and copy this token. Make sure you copy the token before creating, or else you will have to create a new one. So then in our GitLab project for Microsoft Power Query, I have templates for you. There's an Excel and a Power BI. The README gives you some great instructions on how to use the files. Right here we discussed creating a token that is able to read the tables that you want to query. It needs access to the tables management snapshots, and it will need read access to get reports. So now that I've downloaded our Excel template file, I open it up. There are some warnings, so we have to enable editing. We go into the Data tab. There's a Queries and Connections. This will bring up all the functions and parameters that I've created. So we're going to start with editing the parameters. So I'll first put my token in that I created. Snapshot ID can be set to last, previous, last locked, or you can even customize it. So I'm going to go with this snapshot because it has some data I would like to look at. So I'm going to replace last with that. And finally, our URL. So this is the base URL for your IP Fabric instance. Once I do that and click snapshots, we can see we loaded some information. Here's the snapshot IDs, the status, and these are only going to be the loaded snapshots that I queried. At the end, we can see the time it started and ends, and I also converted these into dates for you to make it a little more human readable. Once I close and load, this table will update after I refresh the data. So now we can see here's our data. So that's great, but how do we get more information? So what I'm going to do is double click the query IP Fabric, and it's asking for an API endpoint. So let's go into IP Fabric and look at our device inventory. In the table description, this is the API endpoint that we're going to copy. Reports will do that on our second query, and then there's a couple options for epoch columns and duration columns. So duration is time-based. So in IP Fabric, we can see this column uptime, 1 month, 3 days, 11 hours. This, when it gets returned in JSON, is in seconds. So right here, uptime is capital case. However, when specifying in the Excel file, you will need to know the name here. So before doing that, because I can't really choose columns in this screen, I'm going to press OK. It pops up our editor again. You can already see that we pulled in our data. I'm going to rename this to devices because once we save it, that will create the new worksheet. And then finally, I'm going to tell it that our uptime is a duration, which is the 4th setting. So uptime. Please note in Power Query that curly braces means a list, whereas brackets means a record or key value pair, JSON object. So it's a little inverted than other languages. Now when we do that, if I look at the uptime, so here's our original uptime column in seconds, not very useful. However, at the end, we can now see uptime as time. So 195 days, 7 hours, 51 minutes. So let's create one more query before looking at the data. This time I'm going to do the end of life milestones because this has dates in there, so a little different. So I'm going to look at the table description, copy the URL, put it in there, and set reports to true, and invoke. So now end of life, and I'm going to add our epoch columns here, end of sale, end of maintenance, end of support. So end of maintenance, end of sale, end of support, and at the very end, we'll see end of sale as date, and the information is now parsed and converted. When I close it and load it, we're going to talk about what the reports function does. So here's our end of maintenance. We can see there's an end of maintenance.severity along with end of sale and end support. -1 means no coloration. So when we look in here, empty, there's no color. Green is going to be 0. Blue is represented by 10. Yellow or amber is 20, and red is 30. So now when we go into here, we can see here's 30. Those are reds. 10s are blues. I think I saw some 20s somewhere in here, but maybe I'm not seeing them now. Oh, here they are. So that's how you can query IP Fabric using these built-in functions of this template. One note, when you save this file, your token will be saved inside the file. So be careful with sharing it. I recommend going in here, editing it. It is required, so I just change it to token and close and load before saving and sharing the file. As you can see, our data is now obsolete. Another thing you can do, you can multi-select. You can right-click one, go to Properties. You can say refresh every 60 minutes or refresh data when opening the file. So I can remove the data before, things like that to make it a little smaller files. Enable background refresh, how many minutes. So remove the data before saving the worksheet. And now when I save this file, I should be able to close it. The information in devices will be removed. However, when you reopen it, it will requery them once you put your correct token in. So I wanted to thank you for listening. Next, we're going to take a look at the Power BI template in the same folder, and it has a little more extra functionality where you can join tables together. Thanks a lot and hope you enjoyed.